Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Look at who we got here. Say hi, Shelly.
Do you want me to unmute myself? Hi.
So, are you guys in the same studio, like sitting next to each other, kind of, or are you guys?
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, we're about to find
not
out.
Really. I don't know if it's going to work because when she talks, you can hear it majorly echo.
Because it's such a big room.
One of you just needs headphones. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any here. Headphones. I really need to make my studio better. Okay. Well, we'll have one of us muted at all times. How about that?
Oh boy.
That way we can't argue. Ooh, sorry. So let's see. She's launching the cognitive drawing Shopify page right now and telling all her Facebook friends. So that's fun. Okay. Let's get into the comments. Hello. Hello, hello. Hey, Trevor. It's Shelly. Everyone's happy to see you. Okay, well, let's see if I can get some of this page done. What are you working on, Zach? Anything
Things I
exciting?
can't talk about.
Secret stuff? Secret stuff.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, you remember Anthony was showing us those thumbnails yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
I was right.
You figured it out?
It popped up on my subscription yesterday, and I was like, I knew. I was in the right ballpark, just the wrong guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
That's really cool that he does thumbnails for him. It's really cool.
Yeah. I thought it was multiple people. I thought he actually did it for all, everybody in that group, but maybe I'm wrong.
He didn't say anything if he did.
Yeah.
I did say that yesterday. So
What is Zach's current name since he's formerly known as Zach?
Are you a symbol now, Zach?
I didn't hear any of that. So sorry.
Oh, here, let me mute myself. Ah, dang it.
That's too much. And you have to okay, honey, unmute yourself and say what you're gonna say. Stop.
Can you hear her yelling from back there?
Oh, almost.
Almost.
Maybe if you really, really, really yells,
I'll just type whatever.
She'll just type. So she'll just make faces and type in the chat. She'll be the moderator. Do you have moderator status?
No.
No.
What did you give me?
Well, if you had it before, then you should have it again.
In StreamYard?
No, it's YouTube. I don't know if you can have moderator status in StreamYard. Technical difficulties. So yeah, Shelly was asking you, Zach, what your name is now that it's formally known as Zach. Now, what is it? Is it a symbol?
Oh man, I totally forgot about that. That was last night. I was on Mike's draw the. I was really messing with Mike last night because he moved the D&Q to Tuesdays.
Yeah.
So and I was at one point I was Mike Miller. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's
that carry on. I didn't know what you were talking about. I was formerly known as Zach. What do you mean?
It's a different joke. I get it. Okay.
It's a joke. It didn't carry over.
Yeah.
Edit name. Let's go with I can draw.
Shelly, can you?
Here we go.
Are you able to see the comments on YouTube, or have your?
With the host for guests, I don't see any.
Hold
Oh,
on.
I don't have the comments up.
All right.
Oh, meaning you want me to actually answer questions?
If you want, I mean, I know you like doing that, and people like you doing that. Question, Jason: is this your brand new studio that you're in? Sure is. Sure am. Sure are.
Wait, how do I put my
It is the
comments in? I can't.
Zach, when Shelly comments, does she have to go on to YouTube to comment?
Comment in here.
Yeah, I think she has to do it through the YouTube chat. If you're the only one who can comment in the
So I have to pull up another
comic section for the
Oh,
streamer.
okay. Okay, let me mute myself and go help her get that situated. Okay, so let's go on.
Do another thing, please. Don't
Yeah.
take that. Wait, so I have to have both things up?
Yeah, we'll just have the comments separate.
Okay.
It's weird we can hear me talking over there.
Stop. It's because it's right here. What are you talking about? It's right here. So I do it right here.
Chat.
Okay. Dig it. Going back underground.
It's Eben
Hey,
with a loading bar.
trying to have actual visual feedback here.
Hey,
That's
Evan.
kind of a cool thing, just a loading bar though.
yeah, I'm just loading away. Making progress,
And we got Dave.
one pixel at a time.
Hey everybody! Hey,
It's Dave. Welcome.
hey! Can you hear me?
What's up,
I
Dave?
can.
What's going on?
Not much. Just streaming away. What are you doing, Dave?
I am working on a thing for a contract that I unfortunately can't show, but I thought it'd be really annoying to put my avatar here so I can chat but not show what I'm working on.
Yeah, everyone's working on secret projects right now.
Oh,
It's that time of the year, you know?
Yeah, you got to do it every now and then.
every now and again. What are you working on there, Jason?
Oh, this is some of Phobos still.
Sweet.
Trying to wrap up some pages for
How's the
the
progress going on the campaign?
good. Let's see where we're at.
Bless you, whoever sneezed. I heard a sneeze.
Kelly. We're 15,700.
Nice.
Nice.
Two nice
Yeah.
2/3 to your goal there in a few days.
It's getting close, yeah. Then I can start working on those stretch goals, which I'm excited about. I
Have you
want to make that deck of cards. And then once this campaign's done, I'm going to launch it on Kickstarter. So I'll just keep adding to the stretch goals through Kickstarter. And
Ooh.
so I think it has a chance to get quite a few cards in there. So
Have you revealed the stretch goals?
yeah, so if you go down, so it unlocks this deck of
Oh, great.
cards. I'll just be making Phobos playing cards, basically.
Sweet.
So I'll have art on it, but you know, if we unlock enough of them, then it would actually be a deck that you could play with, which would be sweet. So anyway, so yeah, it's going pretty good.
That's awesome. I like the graphics you made for the Kickstarter. Look really sharp.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
it's really cool.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that.
Did you respond to Nicholas's question?
To Nicholas' question, no. Here's a question by Nicholas. How do you get good contrast in your values so everything doesn't look washed out or all blend together when you work in grayscale? I think a lot of it is that kind of, I don't know what. If you look at a lot of the how to do art in grayscale books, they say to have a black, a really heavy solid black, and then knock it down quite a bit from there when you start doing grays. So you're not doing a lot of colors that are real close to black, and then it can help things be more separated. So I think I kind of think that way. I've never been formally trained, so I just keep pushing and pulling things with the gray tone like this behind the girl character. It's all really washed out, so it helps her to pop out, and so it's just things like that. Like I could have easily put this light effect on the right side of the page instead, but then all her detail would have gotten blended in with the detail behind her, and then it would have just made it harder to read it, So anyway, I hope that helps. Welcome, Eben. Sorry I brought you on and then didn't even hardly talk to you. So how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Doing very great.
Good.
It's been a very exciting couple of months.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it stuff you can share, or is it top secret too?
It's a combination of those things, but
Cool.
but yeah, we're working on a bunch of really cool stuff right now. And then kind of the thing that I will make a Coffee Table Comics exclusive reveal announcement. So we've for Macroverse. So for anybody that doesn't know, we have a next generation digital comics platform. Working with Jason on Remind, and then most likely on some other stuff as well. But we have closed our first kind of official investor, and we're about to do a ton of marketing and user acquisition and kind of all the kind of bells and whistles that we've been heading towards all this time. So it's
really okay.
Really exciting, and I can tell you a little bit more about what's up offline. But
okay.
Yeah, it's very cool. So like we had a kickoff meeting yesterday with kind of the head of our now kind of PR strategy and marketing strategy and all that good stuff. So lots of activity over the next few months, which should start to really accelerate everything we've been building and working towards.
Wow.
And then in the meantime, my business partner and I were directing something for TV right now as well. So, I can't make an official announcement about what that is, but it's also super exciting. So lots of cool stuff going on right now.
That's neat, man. Well, congratulations on the investor. That's huge.
Yeah, no, it's really fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been in the works for a while, but love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it takes, I guess it seems like, from my little experience, it takes just proving that you can do something and showing the vision off first before people can understand it, and so you guys have done that well, I think.
Well,
everyone who tries Macroverse, I think, really enjoys it for the comic reading experience.
Yes,
at least from what I've seen.
Seems to be the case. Yes, we certainly hope so. But in a Coffee Table Comics focused way, we're excited. So what we've called season 2 of Remind is now also complete on the app, and the last handful of episodes, which will complete the series, are going to come out in the next month or so.
Awesome.
So the whole series will be up there, and just on that alone, the response has been pretty fantastic. So
good.
We didn't get a chance to cry together about the loss, but
Yeah.
What an honor to be nominated.
Yeah, that's where I've left it. I'm like, I was a little bummed as soon as I heard it, but I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I got a nomination.
It's still freaking awesome.
I can't complain. Yeah.
A lot of people that end up researching the book because of it, though. They're all looking and they're like, I don't even know who this is. Who's Jason Brubaker? They go look up and they look it up, and then so you got a lot of exposure.
Yeah, no question.
From that, like free.
No question. Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, so it's good. Well, exciting, man. And then I saw Seasons. You guys launched Seasons on there yesterday.
We did indeed, yeah. So Andor's been great to work with on that, and kind of it's one of the things I love about all this stuff is the chance to just not really be focused on a particular genre or style, but just kind of looking for interesting material as a whole. And so kind of love the fact that there's this kind of relationship drama, supernatural relationship drama that is very cool. And I got to say, like, the guy that draws that, I think you can see what he's doing in the first part of it, but the later episodes, like, he's just kind of killing it.
Yeah, Anthony was on here yesterday, actually.
Oh, cool, very cool.
So, yeah. And then we got Doug. Welcome, Doug.
Doug.
Hey.
Oh, we got the bass.
Oh. Look at that. Look what you're doing on screen. You're better than me.
Just doing massive stuff,
He reminds me of the story. The story is on Zoom.
Doug, my wife said you remind her of our 8-year-old son when he gets on Zoom.
Miss Cheely, I love you. Miss Cheely, I love you so. You're the best. You're the best.
How's Earthworm Jim 2 going, Doug?
Really good. We crossed 200K
Dang.
yesterday.
Wow.
Killing it.
So we got to do good. We got to do better. I got to ink this page.
Yeah. Wow.
Earthworm Jim getting bit by a hamster. Okay, tell me about this page that you're doing, Jason, because you fascinate me. You psycho little fascinating guy. First of all, this is for Phobos, right? This is your new campaign you're doing?
Yep.
How's that?
Well, I don't want to give away too much about what's going on the page, but yeah, it's more or less as far as technique goes, it's more or less a lot.
Did you build that castle in 3D?
Backgrounds figured out. Sorry?
Did you build that castle in 3D?
No, it's just layers. So, just flat layers with grads on top of it and just lighting kind of with other layers. So the drawbridge is its own little layer. And it's all using the lasso tool in Photoshop.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. We did it a lot on Kung Fu Panda stuff, so it kind of got me into that style.
Are you trying to do the whole book lasso style? Is that what you're trying to do?
Not really. It's more or less the backgrounds and specific backgrounds, Sometimes it's just nicer to have the shapes.
Lasso's the new way.
Yeah.
Well, it does have like a more of a UPA flash look to it. It's like it is a style.
And he means that as a compliment.
I do mean it as a compliment. It's
Yeah, I love it.
a cool graphic.
It's easy to get ideas down really quickly with the lasso tool. And then if I feel like I have to add to it, I could go in there with lines and do that. But I don't usually have to, because especially if I'm throwing a texture over it, it's really textury on screen here, but it just kind of blends everything together nicely.
So it's not as jittery on the print. It's not as textured on the print, right?
Yeah, well, like all the sloppiness of your lasso tool marks just kind of disappear. It's the same as like when you're painting. You look up close and you're like, whoa, those are some big ugly strokes. But then you got it from a distance, you're like, wow, that's a beautiful painting. Yeah,
it blends.
Yeah.
If you hit the value right, it works at a distance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And otherwise, we're all just in our studio working.
Yeah, it's nice.
Not me, I'm staring.
What are you doing?
Me? I'm working on something I can't show.
Oh, secret combo work.
Yeah, it's just it's not terribly exciting, but it's something I can't show. I promised. What are you doing there, Doug? is that? What am I looking at? Is it Psycho? Oh, that's a rat.
So Doug, what do you suggest I do to get more eyes on the Phobos campaign?
How do you get more eyes on it? That's a good question. You're on Kickstarter or Indiegogo?
Indiegogo. I'm going to do Kickstarter next month.
Okay.
So
The
I'll
good
just keep
news
adding.
about Indiegogo is they give you a fairer free market look. So they don't curate their site as much as Kickstarter.
Yeah.
He's a moderator.
And I'm on Kickstarter right now with Jim too, and it is just curated to death, right? They're always putting up the blue-haired books up front, and then mine gets pushed to the back or whatever. Indiegogo is looking to hit an algorithm, so percentage of your campaign, like when it hits 100%,
Mhm.
when it crosses 100,000, I think is one of the thresholds. There's a couple of thresholds in there, like when it crosses, might be 50. So if you can't hit that, it's hard to trigger their algorithm.
Okay.
Is kind of from what I understand.
Got it.
But getting more eyes on it, you got to get outside of your social circle.
Yeah.
And so you can do it organically on shows, or you can pay for it with marketing on Facebook. And those
Yeah.
are really the only things I know of on how to get outside of your social circle.
Yeah.
And
I
make
have
sure
a
that you hit
couple
your
of
own social circle at least. You know, you have to hit them 5 times before they'll click.
Yeah. Makes sense. I have a couple shows that invited me on, so I'll be doing those soon.
Yeah,
So
I got to
that's
get you
good.
on mine too.
And then, yeah, that's right. The Doug Show.
The Doug Show.
Babe,
I just haven't been doing shows, dude. I've been doing so many pages trying to get this book done. I'm on page 138 of 160, bro.
138 of 160. Wow.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me mute myself for a second.
I'm on the show with Brubaker.
Yeah, or like
I don't have the dummy, so I don't know. Yeah. So whoever asked about how thick the Phobos book will be, I'm not sure. I'm assuming it'll probably be close to an inch because it's 300 pages, 304 pages.
That is a huge book.
Yeah.
And remember what I said about keeping the book size down, because it's hard to communicate that value of just what. So they'll buy it and they're going to get more book than they think they're going to get. And they're getting more book than they're paying for.
Yeah.
And
I actually upped the price this time to 30 instead of 25 just because of 15 so big. And I'm printing it in America, so that's going to, add a little to it.
Where are you printing, Jason?
Doug's guy, your guy too. Was it Justin's?
Yeah, API Print Production. Yeah.
Yeah, he's sending me some samples right now, and we're gonna brainstorm some ways to make it look cool and vintage and stuff.
Good old Robert, huh?
Yeah.
Our man Robert.
That's a good name.
Yeah.
My campaign's late delivering because the shipping boxes are screwed.
Oh, really?
My shipping and fulfillment. Yeah, they couldn't get the boxes. They're having a hard time finding the cardboard that they use. So it came down to everything. Everything is ready to go, and they can't get the boxes done.
There's always something.
It is always. I swear I can't.
I don't mean to laugh at your pain, but that's just so unpredictable.
It's infuriating. Nothing you can do. Just
Yeah.
Are they you're doing a die, or are you doing a custom box?
I'm doing a custom box. It's got a 2-color.
Oh cool. 2-color. Snazzy. It's going to be a collectible. You know what? This is one of the funny things. There's a company that did these premium collector's editions for video games. And what they found is they would do, everything was custom. So they would do a custom shipping box too. And what they found was the customers love collecting so much that eventually they were upset about the custom shipping box because it would get a little dinged up in shipping. So he ended up making a shipping box that was blank to put the custom shipping box inside to protect it.
That's about where we're at too.
If you make it too fancy, then people will want that to be protected as well.
Yep.
So, Jason, can I ask you a question here? What you're doing? How do you control yourself in terms of not going nuts with the bricks? Like, how do you think in advance about the sort of the structure, the shapes, and where you're going to be like, okay, I'm not going to put bricks over here?
It just depends on the shot. Like,
since
this is a double page spread, I kind of wanted to just give it a little bit more love than I could, you know. So I'm not going to go crazy, but I do want to add a little bit more stuff here. Yeah, and I want to do a little bit more gradients on it as well to kind of mask the detail, so that and a gradient on this drawbridge, to kind of give it that depth and stuff. So, and I might throw some light textures over top of it, so like some light streaks.
That's
and
cool.
It'll be a texture, so that will kind of end up covering up a lot of the detail too. And so all that stuff so that you don't have to anything, and it just blends together. So yeah, it really just depends on what I'm trying to get people to focus on. I want people to hang out on this page just a little bit longer than normal, and so I'll add a little bit more detail to it.
Cool. Yeah, it seems like it's one of those dangers, zoom in dangers, where if you zoom in, you're like, I can keep doing these bricks forever.
Yeah.
You zoom out and you realize that the eye is just going to those bricks.
Yeah. I think I get it. I think I have that problem more with line work than I do with lasso tool work.
Busy areas of line work.
Yeah. I think I end up wasting a lot of time on that. But I don't think
I do it on line work too still.
Yeah. But the thing is, I love the busy line work too. So I was thinking about the next graphic novel I do, actually doing it on paper again with pencil, because I can get really caught up in the detail with pencils, like I don't digitally, because I just love the way the pencils look when they're all just jammed together and detailed and stuff. And I can't zoom in, so it helps me to just hit that maximum limit.
Yeah, it's funny because one of the things I wasted time on with the ukulele book is that when I would I would kind of overthink the line a little bit. I'd assume that I need a bit more description than I end up needing, because I would do rendered color. And with the rendered color, the lines were kind of superfluous on the interior, and I ended up eliminating so many of the lines. So I would go out of my way to detail, and then I would do the color, see that the line was overwhelming the color, and then I would pull out the line to the point that if you just look at the line layer, it looks like it doesn't have enough description. It's like the more I render, the less I want the line, and the more flat I go, I need more line.
And you got her rebook safe and sound. You see what people are saying?
I don't see what anyone's
They
saying.
want to see every grain in that wood.
Alejandro, you need to come on the stream sometime, man.
Yeah.
That guy does. If you want every grain and through, then check out Alejandro's art. I can't wait to
The
get your
great
book.
one. He's the great one.
I'll wait as long as it takes you to make it, man. Just so you know.
Yeah, no complaints, man.
No complaints.
Well, I hope he
You did
does
a
like
beautiful
another
piece.
way of getting it, because I didn't even know about it until it was too late. So now I have no way of getting it. So I hope he
So Alejandro, are you gonna open that back up so more people can order it?
I think he is.
better. Be angry. Go on eBay to pay $300 for a book that I missed out on.
Yeah.
Jason, this is a dumb question, but where are we streaming?
Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube.
Oh, all right. I just jumped in. I don't.
Cool.
Mr. Macroverse, is that Eben or Eben?
Evan.
Eben, hi man. Hey, what is the Macroverse? Can you give? I mean, maybe I'm behind here, but I'm
Yeah. I love that question.
Correct
The Macroverse
question.
is our next generation, digital comics platform that we've been building for about a year and a half.
Oh, cool.
Launched in October. Jason's got some stuff on there, and we've got about 70 other creators at this point that we're working with. But really, kind of looking at the whole business, marketing, creative, kind of looking at all the different components of making comics and telling stories in a comic form, and kind of rethinking what does that look like in a world where everything comes to us through this little thing that we're addicted to in our pockets at all times. And what does that look like when we as independent creators need a way to not only tell the stories we want to tell and do the things that we want to do creatively, but also monetize around those things unabashedly. So really kind of rethinking the model for making comics, telling stories. How do you build things that can be, bigger than the traditional direct market or even the indie market? And, kind of what does the next generation of all this stuff look like, and how are we consuming media and all of that? So it's a broad bucket, but our focus right now is kind of rethinking comics for mobile, comics for digital, and really embracing what that is from a creative standpoint, from a business standpoint, and how to do really awesome stuff inside of that.
Cool. That sounds awesome. What can I ask you to address something that I struggle with digital conversion?
Please.
Because I'm kind of curious what the thought process is on this, because this might be more of a structural thing. How do you think about this when you begin a project? Because, like, I'll just give you an example. So I put out a book that had a physical version and a digital version, right? Mm-hmm. And the problem is, one of the things that drives me nuts is when you do a spread digitally, and you end up with a tiny little framing. So what I did is I actually custom redrew all the spread pages to work as the same ratio as the regular pages.
Sure.
So if you had a crossover image, then I would just restructure that image. So as though it was on two single pages. And I found that was good because it didn't break the flow as you're going through the book, and then you suddenly have a weird format page that you have to zoom in on just to read. But another thing that I struggle with is I like thinking of the page as a graphic piece as a whole, and I do a lot of panel crossovers. So there will be like elbows that will bump into other panels, and panel shapes that aren't rectangular and stuff like that. And that's really hard to convert to digital, because it's like when I'm trying to go panel by panel, it's like if you do the full page view, it's too zoomed out. And if you do the panel by panel, I can't break it down very easily unless I'm planning ahead of time. So I'm wondering how you're thinking about that procedurally with people that when they design books, maybe they're thinking ahead and thinking, all right, will this convert well in digital format?
Yeah, so there's a couple different answers to that. So we've got a bunch of series which are converted from some other format that were never really thought about, not necessarily for digital, but specifically for our format. So I'll show you a little demo actually of what we're doing. But it's it's not a PDF on an iPad. It's not the guided view, kind of technology that the other platforms use. We've really rethought, what's the storytelling format that we believe makes sense, especially on phones, which is where 90% of the consumption actually happens. So, kind of leaning into that as a strength as opposed to a weakness is a big part of what we look at from a storytelling or creative standpoint. So if you're adapting stuff, a lot of what we're doing is really rethinking the storytelling, kind of taking the collection of things that are there. And, this sounds less creative, but I think it's actually more creative as you're kind of looking at what's there as a collection of assets, and then kind of directorially, in a sense, looking at how to best tell the story in the format that we've developed. And probably the easiest way is for me to kind of show you what that looks like. So thanks for that opportunity. So there's that piece of it. Then for people that we're working with that are making stuff specifically with Macroverse in mind, and we've got a growing collection of creators that are doing that, either with an eye towards both things, which we think is actually a really smart way to go about it. So that's kind of looking at a larger life cycle for the material that can exist both in our format and in print, or with a few series that are being specifically crafted for Macroverse. So, the fundamental thing about like overlapping panels and more elaborate, interesting page layouts, there's a certain amount of that we figured out ways to deal with regardless, but it really does come down to, if you're making something new, thinking about what are all the different ways that you might want to use this thing, or that you might want to format this thing. And so if you're doing that sort of overlapping, piece of art, or breaking panel borders, or doing unusual panel shapes, or, anything like that, I always say layers are your friend, and, the more layers, the better. That's harder if you're working, traditionally, but you can still kind of think about how to create easy ways easier ways to break that up. And then we've also, over the time that we've been doing this, developed a set of templates and kind of best practices and stuff that we think helps facilitate that process. So that we talk about with a lot of the newer creators that are coming on board about how to think about kind of getting everything out of one process, as opposed to going through multiple processes to do this different formatting. So I think that's a long way around to that answer, but that's yeah.
No, that's cool. It's interesting to think about, because I think one of the weird things that's never really, I don't know, I don't really hear it addressed as to when you often hear about digital performance, like when things are comics are being sold digitally. I mean, one of the factors that really needs to be considered is, was this really made for digital, or was it something that was just converted and is kind of an inferior experience to holding a comic?
And that I think is critical, and it's the thing we endeavor to do the most, which is, we don't want anything on the app, anything on the platform to feel like it was an afterthought.
Yeah.
So we really spend a lot of time and attention, with creators and with our own team to make it feel like it was custom crafted for the platform. And I think that's critically important. And I think, the result of that is you really get a unique experience on the platform, as opposed to something that, again, is sort of a PDF on an iPad or a PDF on the phone. And so that's part of why we think it still makes sense to think about sort of a life cycle, or what we kind of think of as a windowing strategy, if you put it in kind of Hollywood terms, where you could debut something digitally on the platform, but still be building towards a Kickstarter or towards a printed version of the material, and sort of use that as part of the process, part of the way to engage an audience, part of the way to monetize, doing all that stuff as a larger life cycle, as opposed to here's the thing and then let's try to figure out what to do with it later.
If can I cannibalize the chat with one more question for you?
Yeah.
Jason, just tell me to shut up.
Keep talking.
No, there's one I really want to know, because I did actually pitch doing an app like this, I'm going to say 10 years ago, to some crazy industry folks. Then it didn't work out because it was too difficult at the time to prepare the maker functionality for it. But one thing that I put at the very, very top, I really wanted to do, is dynamic audio.
Mm-hmm.
And I come from games.
Yep.
One of the coolest things that you can do with games is dynamic audio. Where you have like a multi-track audio that can change. And the concept behind it, if you're using like a system like Wise, for example, when you're doing audio for games, is you can both switch channels. So, for example, if you're playing a game like, say, Banjo-Kazooie, back in the N64 days, if you would walk into a cave, you would hear marimbas instead of, say, the horns that would be playing for outside, and that they would give kind of a dank, cavey sound, but the music itself would retain its position. It would just switch the instrumentation.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it could add in additional instrumentation. So let's say you have an action scene that's building, you might have kind of a low musical, just one little musical track that eventually layers in drums and stuff that's a bit more exciting. And it would be dependent upon the position of the panel. So it's as you progress on your timing as the viewer, it would trigger the next level of instrumentation for a piece. And that way you could have essentially a real-time dynamic soundtrack. That's something that I keep asking everybody who's making these sort of interactive digital apps, and no one is thinking about audio.
Yeah, so we are thinking about it. I think that it's actually kind of the number one question that we talk about with people creatively. I mean, we've got some audio experience, we've got some gaming experience. One of our partners actually started the mobile division at Disney, so it's got a ton of gaming experience and kind of that sort of thing. So we do talk about it. We do think about it. I think there are a couple of challenges. One is a big part of what we identified in our point of view is that everything that we're making from a creator standpoint should be easy to make. And so, we're not trying to build a tool set that requires you to learn, the equivalent of After Effects or a whole new, skill set to make stuff. I not to throw them under the bus, but I think that's part of why what Madefire didn't really work.
It's too complicated.
It's too complicated, huge learning curve. Whether you love the kind of result or not, like you can't just do the thing that you already know how to do with a different thought process or with a different creative process. You really got to be invested in like, I want to do this thing. And I think the number of people that want to do that thing is much smaller than, I want to make comics, but I want to do it in a way that reaches a bigger audience. I want to do it in a way that, innovates around storytelling, but still uses the kind of fundamental skill set. So I think that's one challenge in that arena. And then I think the other thing is, just unfortunately, or, from a app perspective, especially when you're looking at mobile apps, gaming certainly is an exception to this, but I think on the comic side of things, and if you look at other kind of new digital storytelling platforms, like if anyone's, bumped into the chat fiction world or, Wattpad or any of those kinds of things, the data is very clear, like 90+% of the people don't even have their sound turned on. So the appetite for that, I think, is interesting. I think there is some opportunity there to do interesting stuff with audio, but as far as a way to kind of initially grab attention, as far as a way of kind of initially building an audience and really building the platform, which is still the stage that we're at right now, it feels like something that is kind of really fun and cool to experiment with, but is not necessarily going to be the game changer.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that's anyway. Just consider that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, I will say, this is an interesting thing. One of the newer creators that we're starting to work with now has a series where, just on his own, like he has a very specific soundtrack in mind, for the comic. And it's essentially this is the lowest fi easiest version of this, but it's, he's basically got like, hey, here's the Spotify playlist that I have curated to go along with this series. And so when we launch that series, like we've got the functionality in the app already to kind of say, if you want the experience that he designed for you, then push play now. And, you can kind of have this thing that's been curated by the creator. And I think that kind of stuff is really cool because it lets you, lets you have a window into the world of the person that is responsible for making this thing.
Yeah. I'm kind of thinking about, it's like I was listening to the E.T. soundtrack the other day. I'm like, what's E.T. without the soundtrack?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I want to see more comic stuff that actually integrates that technology because it's. I feel like we have the means to get there eventually. I think if you had some killer apps that showed how it could work,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, it's something we are kind of ongoingly thinking about. I think there is a role for audio, but I think it's something that needs to be, really implemented incredibly well. And also, I think as I said, like our point of view is kind of constantly thinking from how do we make this easy for people, as easy as we can to, make the thing that they want to make and not have to figure something else out or have a whole production team or,
Oh yeah. No, totally. And then you got to worry about file sizes and all that stuff.
Yeah. So Jason, can I co-opt this for just a second while we're talking about this, and let me actually show what this looks like.
Where's your? Oh, there we go. There you go. It's all you.
Okay, cool. So here we go. Where did my sharing screen stuff go? All right, sorry, just hold on a second, guys. And there we go. All right, so can you see my phone at the moment?
No, I see your desktop.
Oh, yes. What Jason said.
Here, I'll show Doug. Oops. I'll show Doug until you figure it out. So we haven't seen Doug's stuff up close yet.
While you're figuring that out, hey Doug, can I ask you a question? I'm a question guy. Doug,
Doug's focusing.
All right, I'll just watch that.
Can you hear us, Doug? Oh, there we go. There's Evan's screen.
Okay, cool. So this is showing up now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is what the homepage of the app looks like. So, we've got new stuff that's been coming out. Hey, that looks familiar. Eisner nominated Remind. Love it.
Yeah.
So all kinds of fun stuff, really proud of the collection of content that we've been able to kind of bring on at this point. Anyone that's packaging world, anyone that's familiar with Brian Stelfreeze, super cool series from him and Doug Wagner that we just wrapped up this week, or actually just final episode came out today. But all kinds of fun stuff on here. So, let's look at something, I don't know, maybe like Remind. So you come in and find, an episode that you want to read. And I think if you're familiar at all with the book, you'll see.
Which we all are.
And certainly should be. So, we're really taking, the beautiful work that Jason did and again, sort of rethought, like, how are we moving through the story? And so the biggest thing that we are always looking at and thinking about is, there are two main things that you get in digital that you just can't do any other way. So one is we're introducing the element of time. So every time I tap the screen, something changes, which means I get the opportunity to think about how am I combining text and images in ways that are not necessarily how you would approach it on a printed page. You can think about how am I moving through a scene. So like this is that double page spread thing you're thinking about, where this starts as a double page spread, but we can start it as here's a close up on this element that's important in the story. And then from kind of a cinematic standpoint, the camera pulls back to reveal this next part of the sequence. We've got text interacting with that, and then we're still continuing to actually move across the scene as we introduce this next element of Vittles and the Lost Cat. Now we pull back to see that it's actually her posting the thing up. So it lets you really think about like how we're interacting with characters, with scenes, with dialogue, in a way that is a bit more cinematic, if for lack of a better term. We sometimes think of it as a little bit of a hybrid between comics and an animatic. So, you're able to kind of think about, again, like how are we combining these images? What impact does that have on the story? You can think about revealing information in different ways. Every tap kind of has the opportunity to become the equivalent of a page turn. Combining different elements of different panels so that you're, kind of seeing almost an animated effect of her grabbing the tail here and then pulling it up into frame. So there's just lots of ways to kind of think about how to construct these scenes and sequences, being able to suggest the passage of time. Or one of the things that is so fun with someone like Jason's work, where he is already kind of intuitively creating this kind of sequence of panels that almost feels like animation when you put them together in a sequence. So, none of this was with this in mind, but, again, we're kind of painstakingly going through whatever we need to do to make it feel like it was. And so then here we are in episode 2, and it's one of my favorite sequences where, you can really think about how do you bring characters together? How do you introduce, so we're kind of bringing her into the scene, revealing what she's seeing, seeing his reaction, and then bringing the two of them together. And so even the size of the relationship between the panels starts to suggest some sort of relationship between the characters. As it becomes more about her, she's taking up more space on screen. So there's a lot of kind of thinking about, what are we doing, not just moving through a sequence of images, but where's the placement of the panels, the way that we're moving from one part of the art to another, the way that we're, even placing word balloons so that the taps between images actually reinforce composition or bring you through a sequence. All of that is, kind of part of the thinking. Cool. So it just opens up, a way of telling stories, even with existing materials, that is truly different. It really is a different creative thought process while you're still, telling the same story, but, kind of experiencing it in a different way.
Who does all this compositional restructuring? Is that on the artist or is that on you? Or how does it work?
It's a combination. So honestly, like as we were getting this all started, and Jason was lovely enough to be one of the first people that kind of jumped on board with us. And so we actually, working through Remind was one of the earlier series that we worked on, and we did that, and it was part of our kind of figuring a lot of this stuff out. So always appreciation for that as well. But at this point, honestly, as I said, we've got about 70 creators that we're working with. And so the deal now is basically the creators have to do it. We just don't have the bandwidth at this point. So for the most part, that's the deal. And so what we do to kind of ameliorate that on some level is we still kind of work very closely with people to start with. And so, as I said, we've got a series of templates and best practices and videos and kind of stuff that we've put together to help think through that thought process and think through how that all works. And we tend to work very closely through the first 2 or 3 episodes with each creator. So we're kind of getting stuff from them and then giving them pretty detailed feedback. And none of it is, I want to temper that by saying our main goal is for people to tell the story they want to tell in the way they want to tell it. So, we're not saying you have to do it this way, but we do try to share what we feel like we've learned in now making several hundred of these episodes. And so, as that process continues, then, what's been the most fun is, a lot of the more recent creators have really embraced that as an opportunity to rethink the story in the same way that we have, almost like a new draft of the material. And for our own series that we make for the platform, which is called Deadtown, when we do the formatting for the app, it's actually the way we look at it as writers is it's our last, it's not our last, but it's our it's opportunity for another draft of the script. So we'll find things that, we rewrite or that we reconceive, just with what we've already got. And so all that becomes, again, sort of a creative opportunity to experiment, to explore, to, rethink how we're telling stories.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks for answering my many questions.
Absolutely. Lots more to come.
Let's see where it goes.
People are dropping like flies.
Why?
Oh, Jason, I love that heightened dark and light on the right. There's
The which one? The what?
the heightened dark and light on the right side.
Oh, cool. Thank
Looks
you.
great.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't plan on using that bright of streaks, but after I threw it in there, I was like,
You throw it in at 100%. You're like, I'm going to drag that down. You're like, nah,
yeah,
right at 100.
it works good.
Now, Jason, I have to ask: is this your wife?
Yeah, Chelly's my wife.
Hi, Chelly. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Just a picture today.
Sorry, it's kind of weird because it's backlit.
Yeah, if she one of us needs to have earphones so that our voices don't echo like crazy.
Oh, yeah. Let me know if mine's echoing, by the way, because somebody told me mine was earlier.
I gotta get up.
Yeah, make a phone call. All right.
So are you in the same group? You're just kind of right next to each other there?
Yeah, there's a little space. I mean, it's a big place, and then I have a little divider wall, so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this is the new studio.
Yeah, it's echoey and stuff. And we're still getting it set up.
Yeah, super cool. You got to do that studio tour.
Yeah, I really want to.
Yeah,
I just want to wait till everything's done and
yeah.
the trim and stuff needs to be done.
Well, you could turn the whole thing into a reality show. The Making the Studio show.
Yeah, I should have started filming that a long time ago.
Yeah. So you just recently moved?
Yeah, we're in a new spot now.
Cool.
It's a nicer spot. Feels good to come in now.
Somebody just said CSP is on sale. Yes, Clip Studio is on sale, 50% off it. I just plugged into our company. Do any of you use Clip Studio?
Yeah,
Yeah.
love Clip Studio.
I love it. You know what I'm using almost. I mean, 100. I'm almost 100% these days is Procreate.
Yeah, it's definitely the go-to drawing program for me. I use Procreate a lot on my iPad as well, but for serious or real drawing, it's definitely Clip Studio.
Yeah, I love one of the things that I've as soon as an option exists, I snap to it like a magnet. And that was the gradual improvement of portable drawing options, like just portable tablets in general. I remember back in the day when we were all excited about there was this third-party company that would adjust like an Apple laptop into a tablet, a drawing tablet.
Yeah.
Drawing tablet. I can't remember what they called it. But it was very expensive. I didn't end up buying it. And eventually we got, like one tablet after another. But it was always the same major issues, which of course were battery life and overheating, and I think the iPad is the first one I've had like that.
Yeah.
Heating. I just kind of use that. I can put it on a pillow and move it. So it's pretty incredible. I just have to be very careful about layering and how much we're trying to put into the file, obviously appropriate. But that's just forced me to be cleaner with my files. I have some of these old Dreamside files that are like 80 layers, and I can't remember what I was thinking. I'm trying to go in and edit some of this stuff. And the worst part is I'll have 80 layers, and then I will combine like the shadow with the color for some reason. So anyway, Procreate actually forces me to get better.
Welcome, Anthony.
Well, hello.
Hey, it's Anthony.
How's it going?
I found your thumbnail.
You found it? No, you didn't. You did?
I did.
Oh, great.
I won't say anything, though.
Thank you.
Hey, Eben. So Anthony's the artist of seasons.
Yeah.
Yes.
How's it going, Eben? Finally, I get to talk to you.
I know. I'm a huge fan of your work, so very cool, man.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, when Nandor was telling me that it was popping on like the next day, and I was like, what? I was like he tells me like the day before. Yeah. And I was trying to work on, it's just because schedule's just pretty crazy right now. So I was trying to work on a new like spring banner. Yeah. It just didn't, it was just not in the stars, but,
all good.
But no, it looked, all the other, cause I forgot that how many banners or how many things I've made for seasons over time. And so what I've already had, I was like, it looks amazing. Like the colors was awesome. And then and then when I was reading it, the way it was set up, it was so cool. I was really, really blown away by like how engrossing it was, like reading Seasons again, but on that platform. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, that was awesome.
That's
the way you guys set it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
awesome. Yeah, when you can experience your own work for the first time, it's
right. Yeah, and it was cool where it landed. It was the end of the chapter and whatnot, and then just the way the setup. It's just really cool. Yeah, I was really happy with it.
Well, I appreciate that. To return all of the compliments, it's easy to work on stuff when the work is so good. So,
well, thanks, man.
Your drawings are just magnificent. So, really, really great stuff.
Well, thank you, man.
Hey, let me jump in a second. I got a question from Megan Pitt about was I successful selling my first comic, or was I turned away at all? She's working on her manuscript with a publishing company. They haven't committed. So I was turned away pretty much with everybody because that's why I self-published it. No, I didn't really actually pitch it a whole lot because I didn't have any experience pitching stuff to agents or anything. But the couple that I did try to approach, they weren't impressed, and just because I'd never published anything. So I just got very hard-headed with it eventually and was like, I'm just going to do this myself, and then that's where it is now. And it was only after I finished it all and it was successful, and then I launched my next book for Sithra that I actually started getting communications with publishers and stuff like that. And people started taking it seriously, and Webtoons approached me and, all that stuff. And Eben approached me. He saw that I was the real deal.
Absolutely.
So it's about actually trying to get publishers interested. I have some stories with like Image Comics and, just, yeah. So, but it all steered me towards self-publishing. Let's just say that.
Which is now the right world to be in. For sure.
Yeah, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. Can I offer a thought on that too? I know the question isn't asked to me, but I have years of experience now dealing with this very same issue.
Add thoughts, please.
Yeah, it's funny, and it won't. Let me just preface this very quickly. It's a complicated answer because I have a preface. Let me preface it by just saying I don't think that there are really directly wrong approaches. So much as it just things will happen to a certain advantage, but it's really hard to plan for them. But one of the most interesting experiences I had was talking with a very good, very considerate publisher friend of mine, who sat down with me for a couple of hours and explained the all-important financials of the publishing world and how, as he began the call, he said basically just, I'm going to explain to you as quickly as I can, which by the way was 2 hours, why you won't make any money if I publish your book. He was obviously very straightforward and honest with me. And we communicated. He said, look, I mean, you have a book here that's at the one we were talking about at the time is 150 something pages. And he said, this is a book would probably sell for $29.99 list price, which is $10 more than what he was typically selling that size book for retail market. He said, right off the bat, you have 50% going to the store. You're selling on a wholesale basis. You have distribution expenses. You have, if it's sold through diamond distribution, there's just a lot of hands that have to go into the purse along the way. And at the end of the day, basically you're lucky if you get $1 on a book sold at that $29.99 price point. I thought, the challenge here is basically there's no way to make enough money to make a living doing this kind of thing unless you were to sell an awful lot of books. However, by going through a direct sale, I can turn a $29.99 sale into something more like $18 a product. And that's because I have to print the book myself and I have to pay for that, figure it all out. But and of course, with the direct sale, you have the challenge of reaching the audience, as Jason's talking about. But it's a balance, and in some cases, you might be better off pursuing a direct market, which is basically self-publishing, as opposed to getting it placed in stores. But that's why I get very excited about when I was asking Evan these questions about digital, because that's I find that if there's a way to do a digital partnership, it enhances your physical sales, first of all, and it opens up additional gateways. There's other ways of selling rather than competing with yourself. And man, this is turning into a can of worms. But basically, it's an amazing world for self-publishing right now. There's a tremendous crossover that we're experiencing where we're not really quite, I don't want to use the word beholden, I kind of do, to a traditional publishing model. And there's a lot of ways for people to get work out there independently. I'm an example. I did a Kickstarter that worked, and I took a bit of a unique angle because I worked with property that existed, but that worked for me in a way that the publisher could not offer me directly. So be creative in thinking about ways of getting things out there because there are so many options today.
Yes.
All right, I'm done.
Agreed.
100%. No, I mean, I think we all recognize we live in a world where the barrier to getting what you want to say or make or create in front of people has never been lower. And at the same time, the flip side of that is there's so much stuff out there. So it's the how do you kind of break through to an audience and break through the noise and all that stuff. But I think the opportunity has never been greater, and especially when you look at what's happening in the direct market. I mean, one of the things that I find fascinating, and I think a lot of people don't realize, is that people tend to think of comics as Marvel and DC or the direct market. Increasingly, that's the smallest part of the actual audience for comics. YA graphic novels are the biggest growing segment of the print market, and mostly through bookstores. And webtoons eclipses all of it from an audience perspective. So I think the opportunities for finding different ways and interesting ways to connect with an audience, and then ultimately, I think the piece that I love to talk about because it's so important, people don't want to talk about it, is to be able to make money and monetize around that content. Those two things have to go hand in hand, and I think we're seeing an acceleration of all of that with the pandemic and everything else that's going on. That the time has never been better to kind of explore and figure out those different ways to find your fans and find your audience and do meaningful work for you and for them, and have that ecosystem actually work. Those are my 12 cents.
Yeah, and if I can, I'll add one more thought based on what you're saying. As soon as possible, obviously, you've hinted at this a couple of times, but the sooner artists can get past the I have to pretend to hate making money, the better. It's one of those things that we all have to pretend that we hate it because we're artists. We have to pretend that we hate money. But money is just a tool, and it's a tool that lets you have the freedom to make the type of art you want to make. The uncomfortable truth of it is that at a certain point in time, you either have to make a decision that you're going to make money through your comics or you're going to make money in some other way, but you have to make money. And so the best possible thing to do, I think, is try and figure out, if possible, to make money through your comics so that you can spend the majority of the time working. And they're not so much of an afterthought of your day or things that you're doing at nights and weekends, which I did when I worked in the games industry. I would have nights and weekends work where you have minute creative energy remaining. I almost think in a way it's better to work a job that's not creative so that you get excited about working on creative work when you get home, when you do have to do the nights and weekends work. But if you're passionate about it, you will figure it out. You'll one step at a time be like, okay, what's the roadblock today? Just figure out how to get through that roadblock, and then you'll go to the next step and don't worry about rushing.
Yeah. Well, I think too, it's, I think that people come at it from all different points of view. I think that, there are people that are absolutely satisfied and happy to, do their art or do their creativity without the need to make money from it. And they do have, something else that's, paying the bills or whatever. And if that's satisfying and rewarding and, what someone wants to do, then 100% that's what they should do. I think the place where, in my opinion, we don't talk enough about as a creative community is that so many of us actually don't want that. We do want to pay our bills and make a living, and hopefully more than a living, from the creative endeavors that we have. And the idea of the kind of starving artist, I think, has done a huge disservice to those of us that have ambition in creative ways. I went to one of the arguably the best art schools in the country, and I came out with a ton of skills. And my biggest complaint, which I was kind of a little bit maybe too public about even after graduating, was, I have an illustration degree, and in 4 years of school, we had maybe 2 conversations about what it is to be a professional illustrator and how do you actually go build a career. And I think that's too often the case in the creative world in general. It's like there's a lot of how do you make stuff, which is great. That's, at the end of the day, we have to be able to make stuff. But how do you do what you want to do with that stuff that you've made is an afterthought too much of the time. And I think if we're honest, a lot of us would not only like to make a living, we'd like to do very well with this stuff that we love to do. And those don't have to be mutually exclusive in any way. So I think, it's being willing to have those conversations. One of my, somebody that had an opportunity to mentor has turned into a phenomenal cartoonist. His name is Lucy Bellwood. And, she's really carved out a pretty fantastic, kind of career for herself over the past handful of years. And one of the things that she does, which I love, is every year she's very public about like, hey, here's what I made this year. Here's how I made it. Here's the breakdown of the work that I did. And it's kind of a level of transparency that you hardly ever see, but it's incredibly insightful to be able to go, here's a professional working artist, cartoonist, illustrator, talking about, work-life balance and what matters to her and what impact that has on her financial situation. And, to be able to kind of see that year to year, is really interesting. And so, I'm not saying everyone has to go to that level, but I think it's important to not shy away from these conversations that are too often ignored.
Okay.
Yeah. Jason, you got a couple of questions.
I think it's more towards
Thanks, Megan, for the $10 super chat. Woo! Woo, woo, woo. What's the one piece of advice everyone would give to the beginner artist? My advice is make a personal project, and personal projects are the way that I got into all the fields of art that I've ever gotten into, because it's how I learned how to draw and animate and do comics. It was all through doing personal projects. I mean, Phobos itself is a personal project, and now it's raising money on Indiegogo. Woohoo! Remind was a personal project. Cithra was a personal project. And before I got into animation, I made a personal project that was an animated version of Remind. And then I got animation jobs, So that's the place where you'll learn the most, because you want to learn it. If you just kind of go and try to learn from other people, you have to do that too. But if you're just trying to, if it's not a personal project, it's harder to get as enthusiastic about it, if that makes sense. You have a goal, you have a vision, you have, a crazy dream and vision, and then it's exciting to see those steps being made towards it. So that's my biggest advice. I have a YouTube video called The Power of Personal Projects. It's like a 45-minute video. It dives into that pretty deep. So check that out. Thanks for the question. Anyone else can add to that though too.
I mean, we've talked about this a little bit in the past. So I would just add to that. I think any actual project is the way to learn anything. So it's like if you want to get better at drawing, find something that is, has a point of view, or is essentially a project. It's like, oh, here's an assignment essentially. Or if you want to get better at animation, it's like, I'm going to make a 30-second short, or whatever it is. So to me, I think it's whatever level of personal, which I agree, I think is kind of the ideal, but just having a project to point your ambition at, I think makes a huge difference, as opposed to just going through a series of exercises, essentially.
Can I add a thought to that as well? To echo 100%, the personal project is the way to go. I'll just give you another reason for it. It's more of a cautionary tale, I guess. We're visual thinkers. We like to think about finished end things. It's good to visualize whatever you're trying to make existing and holding it in your hand as an actual product. It's good to think about like a book or whatever it's going to be. Imagine it exists on your shelf. See that happening. That will help you through the kind of painful days where you have to deal with the troubles. Like, oh, today is difficult. I'm drawing is not going to happen. But I'm moving toward the end result, which is that finished thing. That's very helpful. At the same time, is we can be very, very careful about being a forever learner. That's the biggest danger for artists, in my opinion. Forever learning is sounds like a great thing. It's a terrible, terrible thing. I'll give you examples of Disney animators.
I was alluding to that yesterday. I remember. Yeah, I'm just sorry. I didn't mean to disturb.
No. It's funny when Anthony has to speak up. Like, I'm like, I know that I'm hitting a good point here. Yeah, I've got some friends in the industry. I remember when I first moved out to California, and I went to a pool party, which was maybe, I don't know, 7 days. For some reason, after I got there, I was invited to a pool party, which is a crazy experience. But there were maybe 60 people there who were all industry folks, and many of them older, ex-Disney animators. One in particular was an ex-Disney animator who animated some of their best movies, and was very, very upset, feeling as though he just hadn't done enough with life. And it's, I also hear things like, I don't know if you've seen any of the recent more revealing content about Hayao Miyazaki, and how he doesn't seem to be a very happy man these days, and has been known to say that he thought of his entire career as a mistake. So this is somebody who has moved the entire world with their work, but it can only see dissatisfaction. It's kind of a curse of the artist, but the forever learning that I'm talking about is when you never feel like you're ready. Like, oh, I have to go learn more about figure drawing. I have to go do more practice. I have to do this, but that actually never ends, ever. So you'll be 50 and you'll still think, oh, I have to learn how to do this. But if you start with a project and you learn on the project itself, and you gradually change what has to happen, you might end up redoing the work a lot with the project, which is what I did. But I'm telling you, it's better because you maintain a vision of what you're actually trying to do all this for. And that way, you're not learning until you're 90.
Yep.
Make stuff.
Make stuff. Yep.
Yeah, the learn forever thing. Like, you're always just reading this, looking at this video, doing all that stuff. I was like, part of the point where I was at a point where I was reading that book, that making comics, that understanding comics. I couldn't finish them because I was like, I could be drawing. I could be, just drawing something. I could be doing something else. And I had no idea how to really implement anything or why I needed to know this right now. It was like something like that. So so I just wanted to create.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you have enough desire, this is the other kind of heartless sounding thing that's really very heartfelt. And I say this in the best possible way, which is to say that if you have the desire to do it, it will bother you, and you'll make it through. Is that sometimes people it's very common to get excited about working on it. Like, maybe I really just love watching movies, or I love doing, or I love reading comics. And if I sit down to try and do it, maybe this isn't for me. But if it is, you'll gradually work your way through it. It might be a bumpy road, but I don't really believe that there's anybody out there who can't make a comic if they're really good. Talent helps, but I mean, come on. Either like the talent question is this: either talent is everything or it's not, right? If it's everything and you waste your time, okay, well, the worst thing to do is waste your time, all right? If it doesn't matter as much, then why are you wasting your time worrying about talent? It's just start working on it. And if it works, then good. If it doesn't, then stop. Do something else. No, everyone. I've gone too far.
Now, I think, I'm a big fan of the, I'd had a marketing agency for a number of years, and we would get calls from clients and they would say, hey, do you guys do this? And the answer was always, of course, we do that all the time. And then you hang up the phone and go, all right, how are we going to figure out how to do that? So I'm a big fan of just like throwing yourself into things and then figuring it out along the way. And I think you do actually continue to learn a lot through that process, but it's the difference of putting that activity towards something that has some sort of tangible, result essentially versus the process of consuming information.
100%.
Yeah, there's a lot of helpful material out there that can kind of get yourself in the right mind about things, like books about like fear, like how to get over that kind of stuff. And I think that's like one of the big things that stops people from just starting, just doing it.
Yeah.
And then they feel like they got to know everything before they do anything. Shame and humiliation is like on the rise today, where like if you just think bad thoughts and you say them out loud and you're just thinking something through, people will just shame and humiliate you. And so they want to make sure that they just think everything's correct before they do anything now, there's no, but that shouldn't be that shouldn't be as much as like you'll be shamed for thinking the wrong way or voting the wrong way. It's still you can still make a living, you can still do something worthwhile. You can still build. And like Evan, you were saying earlier, it's like the gatekeepers are no longer, they don't have the stronghold anymore. It's like you can still do these things that you want to do and just think it through and make it a learning process and stuff. I think people get caught up in, watching the news or watching or listening to despair merchants and stuff and thinking that you can't do anything. You can't, they're going to come after you if you try to do this, you try to do that. So I think, I don't know where I was going with this, but I think I'm making a good point.
Of digital agoraphobia.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, I was just thinking about my whole like beginning, my whole beginning was like was just a big trial and error. I know, you said something where I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm plunging in enthusiastically, like I'm just doing it. And then as you're working through it, are you being honest with yourself? That's the other thing too, where a lot of people aren't really honest with themselves, and they keep doing the same things over and over again, and they're not really growing as an artist or as a thinker or as anything, and they get like in a comfortable place. But yeah, like I think honesty also comes with it too. It's like, is this working? Are you growing? Are you really being honest about your situation? As an artist and anyways, but yeah.
Yeah, there's something I told Jason a number of times that I really like this. I don't know if I guess it's a metaphor, but I say that the angels don't pick you up until you've jumped off the cliff. In the sense that imagine that you have to make a big leap, and there's no sign that you're going to survive the leap, but the signs don't show themselves until you've already made the actual jump itself. So it's a leap of courage is what it is. So anything that you do where you put something out into the world is some kind of a leap of courage. And the irony is that as you, it's not until you've made the leap that people will protect you, because there has to be a commitment of some kind. You can't be afraid to make a point or say what you need to say. For me, it's very simple. I draw lines. I never, ever, under any circumstances, put any sort of politics in anything that I do in terms of social media. That's a line that I drew. But I also think, well, if there's something that I want to say, it has to be a universal truth. It has to be something that would transcend time, something that would work in 1950, something that would work in the year 3000, just as much as it works in the year 2020. And those are lines that I draw for myself. That's me. Okay, everyone's a little bit different. But if you can draw those lines and you say, all right, I've figured out what's important for me to present. I know my limitations, and then I'm not going to be afraid with those guidelines, because that's what I'm trying to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement here.
Studio Hannah wants us to love ourselves.
Yeah, I was looking at that question too.
I rock.
Yeah, can we all just, instead of loving ourselves, can we just say how much we love Evan?
Sure.
Jason, you start.
What are these streams turning into? What? We all love each other. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Well, to take that question slightly more seriously, I think what I do find is I definitely suffer from like overwork tendencies, focusing on work tendencies to the exclusion of all else. At the same time, I have a kids, I'm married, I've other parts of my life that are very important to me. So I do find that I do have to, for my own personality type and conditions, I do have to kind of monitor my own, focus and attention to make sure that the things I really do care about are getting taken care of in the way that are important to me to take care of them. And so I think to what that means to me, the self-love question is having an awareness of, or at least some thought process around, like, what are the things that I need to do, whether that's exercise or a particular amount of time with specific people, or making sure that other parts of life are getting some attention, so that life is not just about one thing, and there is some sort of long-term reward to all of those things.
Guys, I was muted. I was talking a couple times and didn't realize no one could hear me.
Yeah, I don't think we heard from you for a few minutes.
I was just saying, I love you, Anthony. I love you,
Oh,
Evan.
jeez. Oh, God.
Love you,
Good
man.
What about your wife?
I love you, Sally.
Thank you.
I'm an instigator.
Yeah, I got to think about that question, the self-love one. There's always, I just think, it's like if I'm I don't like love myself now. I'm thinking this through, trying to think it out, think this because I've heard that before, and it's always I want to change things about myself. I don't really love myself at the moment. I don't love the things that I do. Right, I want to get to some place, but I don't want to sit there and hate myself. I don't want to abuse. I want to work out and be, have a better spiritual life, better physical, better, all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I'm just thinking about that. So anyways, just think about that question more.
That's
the self-love one. Because
really
it goes into danger zone for me. Sometimes I just, but anyways, but yeah.
That's a tough question. I mean, the funny thing is, I love that you asked the question, but I can't stand the question.
Right. Yeah. There's an element to that. There is an element to that, but I think I go, I think it's just don't love myself because I want things to be different. I want things to change. I want things to get better, with my habits and stuff. But I don't hate myself, I don't hate myself. I because it doesn't like, if I don't love myself, it's not, I automatically hate myself, I'm not saying that anybody said that. I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth. But I just think about that. I don't know. I think maybe I had better thoughts on that before when I heard it. It's like, can't really think about it at the moment.
I love that I have the ability to see my faults.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's so many things that you can work on day by day to improve yourself. I was raised by Jesuits. So it's a constant self whipping process of just how can I be better every day, and what are my faults and what are my flaws, and it is interesting because in a way it's a lot like exercise. Really, it's just a matter of working through the pain and figuring out what is it that I can improve upon and working that out. And of course, taking time to appreciate that. But you do get to appreciate results that you work toward. They're incredibly satisfying. And make sure you develop good relationships in your life. Have family, have friends. These things will bring it. So really deviating from that question.
It's like, I always hear like, know thyself, right? Understand, like, be honest with yourself, like, know what your faults are, and you could, like, if you're completely honest with yourself, like that's a way, like, know thyself, but love thyself. I don't know about that. It's like
you can love yourself in trying to be a constant improvement process. That is loving yourself, because nothing will cause you to dislike yourself more than a lack of self. It's a weird twist, because you kind of have to be mean on yourself. It's sort of like it's like a parental discipline. It's not kind to children to not discipline them. They will not be happy.
Right, yeah.
As they get older. I often use the analogy of a screaming kid in the toy store. The kid who screams the loudest is not the kid who really has a lot of reasons to scream. It's the kid who usually gets a toy but doesn't today. The kid who's really got problems doesn't scream that loud, probably because they're terrified. And the fact is, if you have some degree of discipline with yourself in the same way, you will feel better tomorrow. And it hurts today. And someone's got to be the mean person, and that might just have to be you for yourself, to say, all right, you know what? Look, I've been my back is hurting. I should really move more. I'm not moving enough. It's not that I'm happy with my appearance. It's that my back hurts. So I need to move more. I'm sitting too much. I'm staring at screens too much. So these are the things that I can do to make my life better, so that tomorrow, not literally tomorrow, but later, I can be proud of that element.
Yeah, I'd like it, because I know that the greatest commandment, right? Love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Love yourself as you love your neighbor too.
Love yourself as you love your neighbor. Yeah, but it's like, so there is like that biblical standpoint. There is where it is pointing out the self-love that you do, like you have for yourself, like the ego, that you have for yourself. And to sort of, what is it, to bring that out to your neighbor, like, respect your neighbor as you, go out there, you love yourself. Okay. Now apply that to your neighbor. Like, think of him as much as you think of yourself, like that kind of thing. So I know that's there. And then, I was just thinking about, like, that commandment, yeah. But yeah.
That all makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Jason, what are your sage thoughts on this?
I guess I kind of struggle with the question for the same reasons. I'm trying not to think about myself, and that's the biggest struggle for me, because my whole life is thinking about myself and loving myself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
your wife.
And my wife. See, I'm trying to love her. I love you, honey.
She puts up with a lot.
So yeah, that's the kind of the perspective I'm looking at it from. I think the phrase can mean different things though. Than
Right.
you know. I'm thinking of a more of a self-focus and a self-love, which is what I don't want to focus on, because that can be destructive to everyone else in my life.
You know, Studio Hannah, if you really want to trip up artists, ask them that question.
Yeah.
Sounds like, yeah. we're all like,
You're right. I like so. Yeah.
Well, guys, I'm gonna have to duck out of the stream or shut this down.
Oh, same here. I gotta get out.
Page.
I also have to duck out because I've got another thing coming on very soon. So yeah, thanks for inviting, Jason.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Nice to meet and see everybody.
Yeah, and having a great conversation too. This was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it again.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, guys. And Evan, hang out. We will talk as soon as everything goes dark.
Yeah, nice meeting Evan for the first time.
Yes.
Glad you like the work.
More to come.
Yeah. All right. All right. Later, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, bye, Shelly. I didn't even say hi.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife's waiting for.
Is that person drawing similarly to you? Kill them.
Now, where's Craig when you know, turn into like a duck?
Kids don't understand that.
Jason!
Sorry.
Kids don't understand.